Hi everybody, I'm Seda, and today I'm actually going to be talking about something that Fia already talked about in one of her previous videos. If you had seen her most recent creatures video, she actually mentioned a woman by the name La Llorona. This is more up my alley, seeing as it is like a ghostly legend and stuff like that. So she wanted me to make a video about it. And of course I said yeah, because there are so many different versions of her legend, and I wanted to be able to touch on each little one. Now of course there's many more than what I'm going to mention today, but I'm going to mention her top 3. Okay, for those of you who don't know who La Llorona is, I'm going to talk about one of her less known legends, which is actually one of my favorites. Which is actually kind of sad to say, like, why would you have a favorite about, like, a creepy, sad ghost story? But basically, La Llorona was this beautiful woman who was in love with someone. And of course, she was seeing this person and absolutely loved him to death. But he refused to marry her because she had children with another man. So to try to win his affections, she took her children and drowned them in a nearby river. So she went home and told this man that she had drowned her children and they could finally be together. And of course he was like, no, you're crazy. Like, why would I want to be with you? You just murdered your children. First of all, you murdered your children. Second of all, if you murdered your children from someone else, how can I trust you enough to not kill the children that we make together? So of course, he left her. And she was so filled with hurt and regret and heartbreak that she went to the river that she drowned her children in and drowned herself. Now legend goes that she wanders rivers at night looking for her lost children. And if you happen to be a child wandering around out at night by rivers or canals, she would entice you and drown you herself. Now, a lot of people believe this legend was a lot of bull honky created by parents to keep their children from sneaking out at night, or to keep their children from wandering near rivers. And I can see how that would be a thing. But this story has a lot more to it, and I'm actually going to read something super spooky to you guys that I think you're gonna like. I went on to Reddit and actually found someone who was telling the story about their own encounter with the weeping woman. So I'm gonna pull it up on my phone right now, so I'm sorry if I'm staring at my phone for a long time, but I'm going to read this to you, and I really hope you guys like it. It's kind of long and kind of lengthy, so if you want to cut out early, I understand. But this is really cool, and I want you guys to actually stick around for the whole story. It's super creepy. Now this story contains 2 different legends about La Llorona. Well, they're both a lot different than the one I just told you. So let me pull that up right now and we'll get started. So this story is called Don't Look for Her, Pretend You Never Saw Her. The r/no sleep thread on Reddit. Growing up in Arizona, you experience a rich mix of cultures. People come here from the Midwest. Some people brave the desert and come from the South. And some people have been here since before this place was even a state. Some say this is because Arizona has no real culture of our own that we borrow from everywhere else. This state is rich in the paranormal. Many Native American tales tell of demons in White River, skinwalkers, vampires, tribes of little people who take children in the night, Wendigos up north, or the always popular Thunderbird. This isn't a story about all that. This is the retelling of my experience with the Lady in Black. Growing up, I would hear stories from my friends who are of Mexican background of La Llorona, the Lady in Black. The story is meant to keep children inside after dark, and to keep them from sneaking out at night. These legends of the lady came north with the people. It seems though that she came along too. The story goes something like this. There is a beautiful lady in Mexico. She was not from a rich family. Nevertheless, she caught the attention of the son of a Mexican nobleman. They fell in love. In secret, they got married. Not long after that, she became pregnant with twins. Like all ghost stories, this one ends tragically. The nobleman's son was found out. The father was so enraged that his bloodline was tainted with the blood of a commoner that he tried to force the local bishop to grant a divorce to dissolution the marriage. Mexico was very Catholic in those days, so the bishop refused. The father eventually seemed to cave in. He allowed her to move into the house. She eventually gave birth to twins, one boy, one girl. A year later, the son of the nobleman was called off to war. He didn't return. The father became reclusive, hardly talking or eating. He grew to hate the children that would now inherit everything. The commoners marrying into his family, waiting for him to die to take everything. He ordered his men to take the children to the nearest river and drown them, and let their bodies be taken by the current at night, so there would be no proof. The children were taken in the middle of the night without a sound. The mother was kicked out of the house the next day and was later accused of killing her own children. The townsfolk eventually drowned the heartbroken woman, but she didn't put up a fight, since she had already died inside. Days later, the nobleman and his men were found dead in his house. Sightings started happening of a beautiful woman dressed in black, roaming the streets at night, crying, looking for her children. If you saw her and you were a child, she would stop crying, grab you, and take you to the river where you would be drowned. I told you that story to tell you this one. I was out running about a month ago, as I often do. I run late at night, around 10 or so. I run near the canals that are all over Phoenix. I take my American Bulldog with me so that no one messes with me. The path I take when I go running is very well lit and is right next to canals and houses. It always felt safe until the night that I saw her. I was running with my dog as usual. I was listening to my iPod and tracking my mileage. I started to see something in the distance about a quarter mile away. It looked like a person under one of the street lamps that lit the path at night. I thought nothing of it at first because I often see people when I run. As I got closer, I began to notice that this person wasn't moving. Just a silhouette under the light. The closer I got, the more the silhouette started to take shape. When I was about 50 feet away from it, I stopped. My first thought was that it was a homeless person, or this was some sort of prank. My dog started to whimper, then growl, then whimper, then growl again. I had never seen him do that before. I looked at her. I could tell it was a woman. Something about her deeply unsettled me. Then I got the feeling in my stomach that something wasn't quite right, and that I needed to get out of there. I couldn't see her face. Her hair was long and black. It was covering her face. She looked like she was wearing a short black dress, which was odd because it was 60 degrees at night. She was tall, taller than I had first estimated. She was thin, and her arms and legs seemed to be a tad too long for her body. She was just standing under the street light. I took my headphones out because I was going to ask if she was all right. Before I could ask, my ears were filled with a very fast Spanish being spoken in a whisper. It was raspy. The voice filled my head. She raised one long arm at me and extended her index finger. It looked more like a long tree root than a finger. I had had enough. My dog sensed my fear. I took a step back. She took a step forward. I paused for what seemed like a solid minute, but it was probably only a few seconds. That's when I started to hear the crying. It started off as a wail, then grew into a full scream. I turned tail and ran as fast as I could to a main road. When I looked back, she was gone. I ran back to my neighborhood along the main road. The entire time I was trying to make sense of what just happened and whether or not someone was messing with me. The entire run home I could feel eyes on me. I entered my neighborhood. The feeling was still there. I was dreading running back to my house because there are areas that aren't well lit. I decided to sprint the last 0.2 miles. As I was doing this, I happened to look down a cul-de-sac that had one light at the end. And yes, she was there. Her silhouette was as clear as day. She had not only followed me and kept pace with me, but she had also beaten me to my neighborhood. My dog pulled. We made it to my front door. We made it to my front doorstep. I opened the door, ran in, and slammed it. I took a shower and tried to forget about everything. I locked every door in the house and the door to my bedroom. My dog slept at the foot of my bed that night, and I left the TV on. I drifted to sleep around 3 a.m. The next morning I woke up and discovered that somehow I had acquired a large scratch that ran down the whole of my bicep. It would eventually scar. A few days after that, I was talking with my neighbor, as I often do. I told him about what happened. He said this: "I know what that was. The best advice I can give you is to leave her alone. She marked you and will leave you alone. She marks the ones she doesn't like and takes the ones she does." He told me something similar had happened to the person who lived down the street from us. It ended up driving him crazy. He said that it all started with a picture his niece drew for him. He wouldn't say any more than that. He kept telling me to leave it be. I called my friend Justin after that. I couldn't let this go. How could I? I had been followed by something and was marked. This kind of thing doesn't just happen to people. My buddy Justin's family is Mexican. He also loves this sort of thing. I described what happened and asked if it was La Llorona, the lady from the story. He told me that it was possible, as there are many vengeful spirits like this. He told me the same story I wrote out above, except with a few key distinctions. The lady was never pregnant, but she was beautiful. She fell in love with a nobleman's son who played with her heart, promising to marry her, but instead married another woman. The woman, heartbroken, became depressed. She began to see her beauty as a curse. She took a knife and disfigured her face. He told me that no one saw her face from then on, because she would cover her face with her long black hair. When he told me this, I thought back to my encounter and my blood turned ice. The legend finishes that she longed for someone to love her for her heart and not her beauty. This didn't happen, and she eventually drowned herself. She was cursed, though, and now wanders looking for someone who will love her. She will never be ever satisfied. Her hatred has twisted her. Some people she appears to as a monster. Some people she appears to as a beautiful woman. Those she appears to as a beautiful woman will be driven mad with affection for her. Those are the ones she's chosen to love her. Those are the ones who can see her for her and don't see her as a monster. I got off lucky, I guess. This should have been the end of it. This should be where the story ends. It doesn't. I became so curious I went to my neighbors who lived down the street. I had to know what became of the other man who saw her. When I knocked, an old woman answered. I told her that this would sound weird and that I needed her help. I asked her about the man who used to live here. It turns out it was her ex-husband. I cautiously asked her if she knew anything about a woman in black. She looked at me in a funny way and asked me if I had seen her. I told her I had. She gave me the same advice my neighbor had given me, to leave this alone. I told her that was no longer an option. She sighed and told me to come with her. I went into her attic. She gave me 2 large boxes. She said that everything I wanted to know was in there. This was apparently all that her ex-husband had left in his apartment when he disappeared. She told me to read everything, and that if I still wanted to look for her after that, then I was a fool. I took the boxes home and spent a weekend going through everything. There were journals, home movies, drawings, and other things I'm still not sure about. The thing that unnerved me the most was a drawing that looked like it had been done by a child. It was all black, of a tall, thin figure with long hair, long arms, and fingers that looked like roots. My stomach turned uneasily. I matched the drawing to one of the first journal entries. Well, this is actually a really old story, apparently. This says September 17th, 2004. I can't shake the feeling that I am being followed. I went on a walk again last night to see if I could find her. It seems she has found me. Macy, who I found out was his niece, drew me a picture today. She's been staying with us while my mother and his wife are in Denver. She handed me the picture and told me that the lady who lives under the stairs told her to draw it and to tell me she wasn't coming back. I have to see her again. This crazy guy seemed to be in love with this woman. He was obsessed with her. I will include a few more entries. Most of the journals are bogus. He kept them, it seems to document this to show that he wasn't going crazy. Most of it seems to be dabbling on about trying to find her. Oh, that was a journal entry. The September 17th, 2004 was a journal entry from the notebook that this girl found. Or this man. I don't know who this person is. I'm sorry. Next journal entry. October 5th, 2004. I am no longer in love with my wife. Llorona, as I have come to call her, has my heart. I saw her face. She showed me her face. She is beautiful. I have to be with her. I understand her. She is not a monster. She is a beautiful woman. This is 2 days later, on October 7th, 2004. She visited me in my dream last night. I never wanted to wake up. She spoke to me in a voice sweeter than honeysuckle. I have decided to leave my wife. And he did. December 13th, 2004. The new apartment isn't grand or glorious, but it's ours. She comes to me at night, telling me that we will soon be together. I'm going to start recording our encounters to show everyone I'm not crazy. This is love. This is pure. I am happy, and she loves me. This is where things start getting really weird. He started taping himself with a video camera. I watched most of it. He kept the lights mostly off. He said she likes the darkness better. He only had on 1 or 2 lights at a time. From the looks of his new home, he was living in a cheap apartment. One video in particular was set up in a bathroom. He had grown a beard by this point. In this video, he took out a razor, and instead of shaving with it, he removed the blade and started cutting his face with it. He took blood from his face and drew a heart on the mirror. He looked over his shoulder into the darkness and said, "I love you too." Then the whispering started. The camera cut off. The last tape was the weirdest by far. It starts off with him sitting down at his dining table, which was a fold-down card table. He had a large smile on his face. That's all the tape showed for 3 minutes, is him sitting and smiling in the dark. His eyes seemed to follow something around the room. He nodded occasionally. The light above the table eventually went out, at which point the camera turned to night vision. He was still smiling, then a shadow appeared behind him. Long, light fingers found their way down his chest until her palm found its place on his shoulder. He closed his eyes and his smile widened. The last part of his video made my head hurt and my stomach lurch. "Mi amor," I heard the voice say on the video before the camera shut off. They never found his body. That night I packed his stuff up. The next morning I returned his things to his wife. I have stopped looking for her. I wonder if she ever thinks about me. Wow. I actually didn't read that full story before I read it to you guys, and that is so spooky. Like, I literally have goosebumps all over my arm. I was looking through the comments on that story, and this comment kind of really chilled me a little bit, and so because of this comment, I'm actually going to cleanse this room after I finish making this video. This comment says, maybe I'm a bit biased, but from what my grandma has told me and what I've experienced myself, Mexican ghosts aren't like American ghosts. With American ghosts, you can do paranormal research and poke and prod, and unless you are dealing with something demonic, you are okay. Mexican ghosts will F you up. Do not acknowledge them. Do not try to find out what makes them tick. You run and you pretend it never happened. It took a lot of nagging to get my grandma to tell me anything about these kinds of things, and I really wish she hadn't. These are not nice ghosts. Seriously, seriously, I do this whole video and then I find a comment that says, don't mess with them. So I'm cleansing my room right after this. That was freaky. And there's a lot of comments after that talk about how there was a lot of different legends and stuff like that that followed her. And there's a lot of people who have actually like heard her near canals at night or in the early morning. Some people have encountered her. Some people have lived near where she's said to dwell. My favorite comment, now that I mentioned it, is there was this family that used to live in that general area, basically the South, like Texas, Arizona, Mexico, places that are really, really close to Mexico, obviously. And they, the grandmother and the mom would actually say their child's name over and over and over and over again while they were passing over rivers and canals and stuff like that. And it used to annoy the heck out of this commenter until she finally asked one day why they would say her name. And they explained to her that they were letting La Llorona know that that the commenter was theirs. Letting her know that she couldn't take their child. And that one scared the bejesus out of me. I didn't actually know that there was any encounters with La Llorona. I thought that anyone who had encounters with her would die. But clearly this person hasn't, and I don't know how old this thread actually is. But yeah, no, that was super spooky. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? I can't wrap my head around the fact that this person had an encounter with this woman and just was, totally fine. She marked him as undesirable and left. That's really all I have for you today. I just had to follow up Fia's section in that Mythical Creatures video with a video of my own. I knew a lot about the lore before I made this video. It was something I've been interested in since I was way, way younger. I've followed her story for many, many years. But this is the first time I've ever actually read of an encounter with her. And it was super, super interesting, and it actually scared the bejesus out of me. Like, I still have goosebumps all over the place. Anyway, this video is already long enough if you're still even here. So, if you would like to see more videos like this in the future, please give me suggestions of, like, urban legends you want me to talk about. I really, really love doing this, and I know that I talked about doing my Haunted Life series, and I did start doing that, but, I realized I didn't have nearly as many stories as I thought I did. I still have loads to go over, of course, in that series, but I haven't really been wanting to talk about it. But of course, in the next following couple of weeks I probably will, so don't worry about that. To all of my followers, please don't forget to hit the notification bell by the subscribe button, because if you do that, you get notified every single time we upload a video. So please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, like, comment, join the Spook Squad. It means the world to us, really. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you have a wonderful night/day and many blessings to every single one of you.